Okay, let's go on into our class. And there are people still joining. Okay, looking at this week's module, we're now in week 11. And this week's going to be all about imagery. But I wanted to make it like super clear to you guys that your ABR project, your Tangerine project, and your synopsis are both due this Friday. I'm not sure why, but people were like, I got a couple emails thinking that they were due last week. They weren't. They are due this Friday, the 23rd. So if you look right here, this is where you are submitting your projects. And it's the same thing as what I had last week. Your, oh, I moved them up. Sorry. So I just moved it for last week to this week. It's the same exact thing, same exact due date. A few of you guys have already turned in your project. Don't forget that your synopsis are due also by Friday. Those of you that turned in your project, I'll go ahead and look at those and let you know if anything needs to be changed before Friday. I'll just tell you resubmit because you did do it early, so you've got that advantage. And then everything here at the bottom is what I had in last week's as well. So just in case you need to look at the instructions again, or look at how to write a synopsis, or how to set up and get the template, or even the choices again, which you should have chose. But if you want to look at those instructions again, or the samples, they're right here. So everything from here to here is all just project stuff. But this is where you're going to submit your project and your synopsis. And then I always add in the participation points at the end of the week. I just put them in earlier, just in case you guys wanted to see. Most of you that are in here right now are in here all the time, so it doesn't really affect you guys. But like 10% of your grade is participation. And so I'm just going to show you. If you go in, you can see like your points from all the previous weeks. So for the past 3 weeks, I've been breaking it down by points. And before that, if you attended any Zoom, you got full credit. But now, this week, last week, and the week before, if you attend one day, you get 2 points. If you attend 2 days, you get 4 points. If you attend 3 days, you get 8 points. If you attend 4 days, then I consider that a full week, because Fridays we usually are taking a quiz, so it's not that big of a deal. So full points is 10 points. But if you logged in all 5 days into Zoom, then you get your 10 points plus an extra 2 points extra credit. And so it helps that 10% of your grade just boost your whole score up. You don't turn anything in for this. I literally pull a report at the end of the week for everybody, and that's where those points come from. So just in case you ever wanted to like scroll down and see, like now it's in 10 and your points are there, and it was in 9 and your points are there. But I usually would add them later, but I didn't want anybody seeing that and going, what do I have to turn in? Because there's nothing to turn in. It's just part of your grade. Okay, so week 11 at a glance is all about imagery. And today we are going to be doing imagery notes, watching a video, and then you guys will be finishing the imagery, the second page of the imagery notes on your own. And then I did not put any extra reading. You do have to do your reading log, but if you need to like reread a part of Tangerine to do your project, you can count that as your reading log, or you can read whatever it is that you want to read for this week's reading log. You're free to read whatever you like for this week. We do have a couple excerpts that we're reading, but it's not really enough to use for your reading log. And then as you can see, I put in that your project and your synopsis, please work on that every day if you're not already done, because it is due Friday. Just repeating myself to make sure everybody hears me. And then we have work all week long, but Thursday I went ahead and made another catch-up day, just because it's the day before such a big assignment is due. And so, sorry about that. And so I wanted to make sure that if you needed that time, you could have it on Thursday to finish up anything you need to. If you're already done with your project and synopsis, you can always ask me for extra credit on Thursday, and that's only if you have everything else done. But I did provide that for you. That's not always going to happen, but I did do it this week because your project is due on Friday. So let's go back to our modules, and we're going to start. I also set up I'm kind of trying something new. So for if you ever miss class and you want to know like the order we did things or what to do, I went ahead and I put like what the directions are for everything. Um, if you're here in class like you guys are with me now, you don't even have to worry about the directions because I go through it all with you. But if you miss class, you can always watch the video and then go through like the different steps I put in this week. And we'll see if I continue to do that or not. I'm not sure, just seeing how it works. Okay, so our first step is to complete page 1 of our IN imagery notes. So go ahead and open up now your preferred method, whether it's the PowerPoint, the Google Doc, or the PDF. I'm going to go ahead and open up the PowerPoint from my desktop since I already have it downloaded. And this is what it looks like. And there are 2 pages that you need to turn in this time. Sorry, just dropped my iPad. Okay, so imagery is part of figurative language, and we're going to do like a whole figurative language unit later, but imagery is important because it's also different. So all types of figurative language are part of imagery. So when I say like identify figurative language, it's usually not going to include imagery because imagery could be a metaphor, a simile, onomatopoeia. It could be anything basically. Imagery is separate even though it is part of figurative language. So what imagery is it is descriptive language. So let's go ahead and start typing that in here. Imagery is descriptive language. It uses figurative language to represent objects, actions, and ideas. In such a way that it appeals to the reader's 5 senses. And that's the key point here. Imagery appeals to our 5 senses, and that's why I've got touch, sound, sight, smell, and taste down here. So let's go ahead and finish this one. It uses figurative language to represent objects, actions, and ideas in such a way that it appeals to the reader's 5 senses. And then sometimes it's also called sensory language. So just know that I might ask you like on your quiz on Friday, something like imagery and sensory language are the same thing, true or false, and you need to know that. So again, imagery is sensory language, same thing. Okay. So when you are seeing imagery, it again, it can be inside of a metaphor, inside of a simile, inside of a onomatopoeia, inside of any type of figurative language. And we're going to go over those later. But when you're looking for imagery, we're specifically looking for anything that is sensory language that's appealing to our senses. And those again are touch, sound, sight, smell, and taste. So if it's appealing to our touch, we're going to hear words like these. Smooth, and these aren't the only ones, okay? These are just some examples. So smooth, prickly, maybe rough, bumpy, cool. Thanks. Warm. All of those are things that you feel, okay? Sometimes an author will say, I felt it on my prickly tongue or my bumpy rough tongue, and it's kind of trying to confuse you because the tongue is in your mouth, but you're not tasting the bumps. You're not tasting the roughness. That's what you feel on your tongue. So pay attention to those kind of sneaky things too. So for sound, it's definitely mostly going to be onomatopoeia. And those things are going to be like bang, rustle, boom, crackle, pop, or like meow, or, like moo, like a cow, any of those things that the word mimics the actual sound, that would be sound. For sight, it's describing what we see, okay? So one might be like glistening, or little, or long, or like the flicker of a candle, or pale, like a pale vampire skin. And sometimes they're combined. So you may, like, for example, Twilight. I remember Bella talking about his pale, cold skin. So then she's invoking two senses. Cold is what she felt. Pale is what she sees because he looks super, super white, right? So it is possible for authors to combine two or more senses in the same sentence. For smell, you're going to get words like rotten, smoky, musty. That's my favorite word to describe the boys' locker room. Burning. Anything that you actually smell. Okay. And then for taste, it could be like bitter, savory, creamy, sour, salty. It could be sweet. It could be anything that you actually taste, okay? And that's why I was saying watch out, because sometimes they'll talk about how something feels in your mouth, but it's not necessarily how it tastes, it's how it feels, right? Okay. Now, the most important part of this whole thing to remember is that imagery creates an image in the reader's mind. So when we say show, not tell, that's what we're talking about. Use this sensory language, this imagery, to create a picture in the reader's mind. And that's super easy to remember because image is part of the word imagery. So most definitely going to have to identify the different types of senses that are being invoked on Friday. Definitely going to need to remember this one right here. Need to know the definition, and that it's also called sensory language. Okay, the second thing we're going to do is in your module, I'm going to stop share so I can maximize video and audio. As I went ahead and I put in a video as part of our lesson today. And that's just because I want to reinforce what I just went over with you guys. So we're going to go ahead and watch this one right now.
We have 5 senses. Writers often appeal to these senses to bring their stories to the reader's imagination. For example, what sense is the author appealing to in this sentence? The author is appealing to the sense of taste. What other senses might a writer appeal to? Can you envision this moment? This is because its writer is appealing to the sense of sight. Can you hear it? This is because its writer uses words that suggest sounds. Writers also can suggest the sense of touch. Finally, writers can appeal to the sense of smell. All of these examples use imagery. Imagery appears when a writer appeals to the 5 senses. Imagery helps bring the passage to the reader's imagination. Which senses does this sentence appeal to?
Let's go ahead and look at this. So the sea broke in a long line, and I'm going to separate it out. The sea broke, that literally means that like the waves broke. You can't feel, well, you could feel it if you were in the water, but we're looking at that somebody's standing in the rain and that we're up on the beach, okay? So the sea broke. So that's going to be sight. The sea broke in a long line in the rain and slipped back down to the beach to come up and break again in a long line in the rain. All of that's talking about the waves breaking on the shore. Long line, remember, long was one of those ones that we see in the rain and slipped back down. So we're talking about what we see, that the wave is breaking and going back into the ocean twice. There's nothing else about what we feel. Like if we wanted to add in what we felt, it might be like in the cold rain, if we wanted to put that. And then you could add in like the scent by saying maybe in the fresh rain. And then it just depends. You could also add in hearing there talking about the waves. So the sea loudly broke, or the sea, something else to describe the way it breaks that you hear it, right? Let's say, instead of saying the sea broke in a long line, you could say the waves crashed down. And then crashed would be one of those onomatopoeia words that would appeal to our ears. All right. I believe that's the end of it, but let me just. Yeah, it is. All right. So let's go on back to page 2 of our imagery notes. Okay, this one I've coordinated the colors with everything on the first page. So if you look over here, these are little highlight blocks that I've already created for you, and your directions are here. Every once in a while, one of you guys will tell me I don't have the things to pull over, or I don't have the directions. So we're going to go over these directions together. So we're going to find the imagery in the excerpts, both of these, and highlight it according to which sense it appeals to. And I'm going to show you how I want you to do that. I have provided highlighting boxes for you, but anything that's touching the white, you should be able to grab. If for some reason you can't, you can literally grab it from right here, copy it, and paste it to duplicate it from here, because I left them all here for you so that you could copy these and use it here. It's just in case you don't have them over here. The only ones, excuse me, that you may not get if you're one of those people that it doesn't show up on the sides would be like this pink right here. But you can always just grab it from here, click on it, and then go edit, copy, and then say edit, paste. And I know other shortcuts, so you could just take it right here and then highlight it, whatever you need to do. For those of you, excuse me, got my tongue tied up. For those of you that see everything and don't have any of those issues, you just grab it from over here. So let's go ahead and look at this. I'm going to zoom in on the top one. All right. So spring, I'm going to read it first. It seeped unseen into the waiting red earth in early March, softening the hard ground for the coming plow and awakening life that had lain gently sleeping through the cold winter. But by the end of March, it was evident everywhere. In the barn where 3 new calves bellowed and chicks, the color of soft pale sunlight, chirped. In the hard where the wisteria and the English dogwood bushes readied themselves for the annual Easter bloom. And the fig tree budded, producing the forerunners of juicy brown fruit, for which the boys and I would have to do battle with fig-loving Jack. And in the smell of the earth itself, rain-drenched, fresh, vital, full of life, spring enveloped all of us. So every single one of the senses is touched in that little excerpt from Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through, find the imagery, and then label the imagery according to color. We're going to color code it, okay? So remember, anytime you see a color in there, it's going to be sight. And sight for us is purple right here. So let's go ahead. The first time I see a color would be waiting red earth. So what we're going to do is highlight the words red earth in this purple color because that's our color for sight. And then we read on. In early March, softening the hard ground. When do you feel, or I just spit it out. So softening is something you feel, right? You can only touch it or feel it with your feet if you're walking on the ground. You can't hear softening. You can't really see softening and know it, except maybe on a fruit. You can't smell softening and you can't taste softening ground because if you put it in your mouth, it will automatically soften, right? Because it's getting wet and nasty and who wants to put mud in their mouth? So it would be what you touch. So we're going to grab a blue one and I'm going to make this fit here. And then I'm going to grab another one and finish highlighting the hard ground. So softening the hard ground for the coming plow and awakening life that had laid gently sleeping through the cold winter. Cold winter's another one. In cold winter, you can only feel cold. So again, we're going to use blue. Now, if you run out of blue, you can always just copy and paste, copy and paste. And then let's keep going down. I'm not going to do the whole thing with you, but I'm going to do at least half of it. So, but by the end of March, it was evident everywhere. In the barns where 3 new calves bellowed. So what would bellowed mean? Calves, they're bellowing, they're making noise. It's kind of like a cow mooing. A calf is a baby cow. And so bellowing is the noises that they're making. And so that would be what we hear. So that would be sound. So we're going to go ahead and grab this one and put it over calves bellowed. And chicks, the color of soft, pale sunlight. Soft, pale sunlight. Remember, anything with color is going to be sight. So we're going to grab purple and put this here. So, and the chicks chirped. Chirped is what? Sound. So we're going to highlight this chirped in green. And then I want you guys to go through the other half of this and continue highlighting. Now in the rest of this, again, you're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4 different more colors to put in there. By the time you're done with this, you will have all 5 senses in here. So I'm letting you know that there's at least 4 more in the rest of this, and there's every single color should be in there. So you're gonna find a yellow and you're gonna find a pink too. And then when you're done with that, I want you guys to go on and do Okay for Now from Gary D. Schmidt on your own. And you're going to go through this one and highlight all the different senses that are invoked in here. Okay, I'm going to give you a second to take a screenshot or something if you need to. Okay, guys, so the next part of this is make sure you complete page 2 and then submit it. And you can either upload your doc like usual or submit screenshots. Either one is fine. The only thing I ask, and I've seen it a couple times from a couple people sending me links to their work, do not send me a link to your work. That means that I've got to leave Canvas and go and check it, and it doesn't allow me to grade it correctly. So I don't want you emailing me links or sending like copy and pasting links into Canvas. It doesn't work. You've got to send me a screenshot or actually upload the document by clicking the little paper clip and uploading it. Okay. Before I let you guys go today, does anybody have any questions about what we did today or anything about your projects? Okay, will my usual group please stay after class, and the rest of you guys, I will see you tomorrow.